Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. Glad to see so many people out there this afternoon. We actually, today we're going to spend about 15 or 20 minutes, and the topic is iPhone or no phone. And really what this is about is making sure that you have all the knowledge you need to make sure you are looking at the right things when it comes to purchasing your next wireless device. So, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. My name is David Connor. I've been in the wireless industry for about 16 years. And for over half of that time, I actually was a senior product marketing manager. And what that really means is that I got to play with all the really cool devices, learn about them, teach people how to sell them, and make sure that we position them right in our retail environment. So I'm going to hopefully use all that experience today to educate you guys on making sure that you know what to look for when it comes to your favorite device. Now, as you were coming in, I asked you a couple of questions, so I appreciate I'll be giving you some good feedback, and I can take a chance to write them down. And as we go through this today, I'm going to try to tie it back to all this so you guys, again, you'll be able to address what you think is most important to you today and what will be most important to you when you get to that time to purchase your next wireless device. So I know a couple of them. Doug, you said that durability was really key to you. Cassie, you talked about how the camera was nice and the apps, probably a lot of the social media stuff. And we're going to make sure we address all of these things as we go through it. But as we do that, I want to make sure that you guys understand that today is not about telling you which device you need, but about arming you with the information to ask the right questions. So when you do go to purchase that next wireless device, you have all the information you need to make the right decision and not necessarily purchase the one that you think your friends say you should have. So to understand the difference between all the devices out there, there's 6 key features and 6 key areas that we're going to focus on: ecosystem, battery, memory, media, durability, and the miscellaneous, which is where we'll catch a lot of these things that you guys think are important today. And at the end, I'll come back and I'll revisit and make sure to see if A, they're still important to you, or if there's anything else you may have learned when it comes to looking for that next device. So let's go ahead and jump on in. The first one is ecosystem. And there's a lot that goes into the ecosystem, but at the end of the day, it's all of the components, both internal and external, of a wireless device that make it work. And I'm not going to clear this slide for everybody because there's really 2 important things that you need to understand. There's the operating system, otherwise known as an OS. Most of you have probably heard of the most popular 2, which would be Android or Apple. And then there's the user interface, applications, and peripherals. Now when it comes to the actual operating system, there's really 2 things you need to keep in mind. You need to keep in mind that you have closed operating systems, such as iOS. And when I say they're closed, that means that the manufacturer, such as Apple, controls everything in that environment. So it limits the amount of things that a device manufacturer can do. And then there's an open platform operating system. And most of those are you refer to as Android. And anybody that has the rights to build apps or like that can actually install and build customization into that operating system. Now the way that looks on the phone itself is called the user interface. And this is where we're actually going to start, and we'll address the ease of use for Mary and for Kathleen, and that is that in the user interface, in an open operating system, again, such as Android, the manufacturers, whether it's Samsung or HTC, can actually go in and they can create user-friendly or easy-use operating systems and interfaces. So where instead of having a whole bunch of buttons, you only have 1 or 2 buttons. Some people refer to that as the elderly user interface, and that's fine because that's what makes it a lot more simple. So again, and then if it's an open interface, that's more customization, makes it easier. If it's closed, it's going to be limited. When it comes to making sure that you understand which device is best for you in the future, you're going to want to know that. If you want something that's really simple to use, you're going to want to look at the user interface. Don't just think what you think is pretty or what you think looks cool, you're going to need to know that. Applications, really the only key here is a lot of people get lost in the application world. And they think that, oh, I've got a million apps and they're all free. Well, if your device that you plan on buying requires you to download a lot of apps, you're relying on a third-party company to make the decision, which may not always be the best in the long run. And then peripherals is kind of a new thing these days. Most of you, has anybody ever heard of smartwatches? You've heard of smartwatches? Okay. Smartwatches are good things, iPads, tablets. If you're going to have an iPad which runs on an Apple operating system or iOS, you're probably going to want to have an iPhone because they work the same. Something that's really popular these days are called connectables, and that's your cars. So if you have a car like Volkswagen has, and Honda has Android Play, a lot of the GMC products have Apple Play, if you want to integrate that into your car, have the same look and feel, you're going to want to make sure you get one of those. So Again, operating system, user interface, application, peripherals are all part of your ecosystem. And the good news is that everything we talk from here on out is going to tie back to this. So once you kind of have an understanding of which one's best for you, whether it's closed or open operating system or easy or standard user interface, everything else will make a lot more sense. Moving on into battery. Battery is really simple. Really what you need to pay attention to when you're looking at your next wireless device is how long are you going to keep it. If you're going to keep it for a year and you get something new, not as much of focus needs to be put on your battery. If you're one of those that keep it every 2 years or trade it every 2 or 3 years, you're going to want to pay attention to it. And that's because there's really 2 types of batteries. There's expandable and there's embedded. If it's embedded, that means it can't be changed. So what happens when you've had your phone for 18 months and the battery starts going out? Because they do that, you can't do anything. You have to replace the entire phone. If it's expandable, a lot of times you can go online or go back into the retail environment and actually purchase a new battery. The other pieces are size and charging methods. When it comes to size, the more things you do on your phone, and we'll talk about that, the bigger the battery you're going to need. But that always doesn't mean bigger is not always better in batteries. The charging methods and speeds is really critical. Today, customers and consumers are doing more and more with their actual smartphones. And most smartphones aren't going to make it through an entire day. They're going to be charging it. But there's a difference of being able to put it on a charger and going from 0 to 40% in 15 minutes, or going from 0% no charge to 50% and taking 3 or 4 hours. So if you're really relying on your phone, pay attention to how fast your actual device will actually charge. So that's batteries. And then the biggest one, and probably the one I want you guys to take away the most out of this entire thing, is memory. Because it's overlooked in almost everything we do in the PC world, technology world, and especially in the wireless world. Now again with memory, memory is the capabilities of the wireless device to manage and maintain all of the content. Just like battery, you have 2 types of memory. You have embedded and you have expandable. Here's where it really gets tricky. Most people are really big fans of iPhones. And if you purchase an iPhone, I think Cassidy, you had an iPhone. When you went to purchase that, you were given a couple of options for memory. And the lower the memory, the cheaper the device. And that's what a lot of people go with, is try to save some money. Well, the problem with it is when you buy a 32, 64, 128 gig, whatever it is, iPhone, that cannot get any bigger. And yes, you can offload some of your music and pictures, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But every time somebody does something, that every app you download, every upgrade from the operating system or the user interface is going to take up that memory. And in about a year, no matter what you buy, your memory is outdated if it's embedded. Expandable allows you to put an SD card in there and allows you to control that and offload some of those memory constraints so that you're actually going to get a better value out of the device. Cloud services, it's becoming more popular. Again, that's where you can offload some of your pictures. So if you like to take a lot of pictures and you want to save them, make sure you understand what cloud services are available. There are some free ones. They come with a lot of the operating systems and devices. There's some you pay for. Same thing goes for backup. Over here on the right, you'll actually see some of the ideas, and it's actually in the handout I gave you guys today. So you can take that with you if you have any questions at a later time. But it will tell you how many things you can do with a standard set of memory. Keep in mind, this is just for photos and for videos. It doesn't account for any music or any updates. So again, the key takeaway here is really simple. It's really simple. Match your usage. Don't save $100 because you think you won't need that much memory. Always pay for the memory because you're never going to be able to use the device like you want if you don't. So that'll be a really key call out for you here when it comes to memory. All right, so looking at the next one with media again, the most popular thing with media is camera. So we're going to spend a little bit of time there this afternoon. And when you think about camera, there's a lot of things that are out there in the media. There's a lot of marketing campaigns that you get wrapped up in an 8-megapixel camera, a 16-megapixel camera. And at the end of the day, unless you're going to blow that picture up above an 8.5 by 11, you don't need anything bigger than a 5 megapixels. So don't get lost in the marketing schemes of it's got a 20-megapixel camera, it's got all these fancy flashes, because at the end of the day, if you're going to take those kind of pictures, you're going to want to go get you an actual real camera. The camera for your wireless device should be used to capture those on-the-spot moments, those kind of day-to-day quick things, not personal pictures, anything like that, family memoirs or mementos from that perspective. But when you talk about camera and you want to look at your phone, you want to really look at the front camera and the rear camera. A lot of lot of cameras today will actually come with multiple cameras, and those multiple cameras on some of the newer devices allow you to create depth images and do some really cool things. What I think is really cool is on your front camera. And Cassie, you talked about earlier how you like the camera and the apps, and I'm guessing you probably have some Snapchats or taking the selfies for Instagram or whatever it may be. What's really cool here is when you start looking at your front cameras, and Mary, you started out looking at your grandbabies, the same thing if they move a lot, and that is the front cameras are very, very narrow-sighted, meaning most of the time you can take a one-person selfie unless you have a really long arm. When you start looking at this and start asking the questions for your next wireless device, there are actually devices out there, and I've got a couple of them here, that have 88-degree angles. Well, what that means is instead of having to stretch your arm out as far as you want, or as far as you can, to take one selfie, you can actually put up to 5 or 20 people in a selfie using your front camera. So again, if you're really into the social world, if you want to get those best pictures, those are the type of things you want to look at. You want to look at those features that allow you to do that, not necessarily get wrapped up in the size. Additionally, a big one is your flash. Now, there's a lot of devices out there now that are coming with LED flash, which is what you really want to look for. And now they're even coming on the front of the device. Again, now most of the cameras that are used today are the front camera, not the back camera. And then there's your stabilization and shutter. And Marianne, we were talking earlier, and this is probably the really best one for you, is if you're taking pictures and people are moving a lot. So if you've got a grandbaby who makes quick moves or something like that, if you don't have a camera phone or a camera inside your wireless device that can handle a shutter speed and a stabilization, what happens is you get the blur effect. And you don't want the blurred effect. You want the best picture possible. So those are kind of things you want to look at. Additionally, when it comes to camera, one thing you want to look at are the features that are built inside the camera. Now this is where the marketing campaigns on TV can really help you. You've got live cameras and live pictures and still pictures. And the best example of this is something that Apple just came out with their latest iOS release. That allows you, it actually records about 3 seconds before you actually snap the picture. You can go back in and you can look at that. What that allows you to do is, sometimes you never can catch that first shot just right, but with that live picture it allows you to go back, and a lot of times that's where you'll get your best picture from. And then you've got dual pictures, and dual pictures is something that LG, so if you ever heard of LG or what one of their devices are really known for, what the cool thing about that is it actually allows you to take a picture with both cameras at the same time. So imagine if you're recording your daughter's first steps or something that's really special to you, you're using the back camera to do that, but at the same time it's taking a picture of your face. So you go back and you look at it years later, a month later, whatever it is, you can not only remember that, but you can see your face at the same time and see how important it was to you. So kind of one of those cool features that you want to look at when it comes to your camera. Now, in addition to camera, there are other parts of media that a lot of people get wrapped up in, and that is video. But when you're looking at video, again, don't get wrapped up in the marketing campaigns and somebody says, oh, I record in 4K. Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad you can record in 4K, but guess what? Unless you happen to have $5,000 TVs or computers, nobody else can watch it in 4K. So don't get wrapped up in 4K. What you want to do is you want to get wrapped up in the playback, and that's what can I do with it? Does it have the ability for me to plug it into an HDMI port and stream it to my TV? Does it allow me to have a mirroring capability? So maybe I recorded a soccer game or something happening, but now I can play it back on my TV. Don't get lost in how fancy 1080p, 1080i unless the playback is there with you. And then when it comes to media, don't forget about music. Now there are a lot of free music services out there like Pandora, iHeartRadio. The problem that you have when it understands media is even though you're streaming those services, Pandora, iHeart, they're still utilizing your memory, and they are very, very costly to your battery. So I said that earlier how I was going to try to tie it back together for you. The more music, the more media, the more videos you take, the more strain it has on your memory, which means you got more strain on your battery. And oh, by the way, all of those run on an operating system. So to give you an example, iOS now has their iRadio that's inherent, built into the device. Something you want to use, that's personal preference, but you want to make sure that you understand and you're asking those kind of questions. How is it going to operate on my phone? And then there's the whole streaming thing. And the issue with streaming with a wireless device today is that you need to pay attention to, A, it's going to put a lot of strain on your battery, B, it's going to cost you a lot of memory, but more importantly, above all that is, it's really going to come into what's the quality of my phone, what's the screen size of my phone, all that good stuff. And we'll get to that in a minute. But media is really important to a lot of people these days for a lot of different reasons. And if you don't understand what it is you're looking for, you can be buying specs, not buying the benefits of the device that are out there. All right. Durability. This is one that gets overlooked time and time again. And in my opinion, through my 16 years, I will tell you it's probably the most important outside of memory. And when you talk about durability, you're talking about two things. You're talking about CMF, which stands for colors, materials, and finish. If you think about it that way, you go into a store and you see a ton of devices out there on the shelf, you probably go for the really bright, pretty one. Or you may like the one that looks like a big sheet of glass, or whatever it is. But you want to know what materials it's made out of for its durability. You also want to know what finish it's made out of. Is it Gorilla Glass on your screen? Is it just plexiglass? Because those type things are going to tell you how long that device is going to last. And when it comes to finish specifically, especially with the screens that we'll talk about in a little bit, the different types of finish in your device allow you to do different things with your device or with your screen. If you've got a glass screen, you've got almost 10,000 points of touch. That means it's real sensitive. That means you can zoom in. That means you can do a lot more things on your device. If it's a cheaper plexiglass, you're probably only going to get about 10. Well, that comes into effect when you're looking at a little bitty website or something like that. And we talk about materials. What I want to make sure you guys are really cognizant of, and I've got a couple examples before you here, is this is an iPhone. I think it's an iPhone 6S, and it's wrapped in just a standard Pelican case. It's going to add durability to it. But when you buy this on the shelf, you think, oh, this is a nice little phone, looks really pretty, but then maybe it's not as durable as you want, so you buy a case. Now you've got a case, so now the phone's bigger, you've paid extra money for the case, and now it doesn't look as good, but it's heavier, and it's not what you originally bought. This is the same phone, or a similar type phone. It's actually the same size as the iPhone would be without it. But maybe it's not as pretty, but this is actually Kevlar enforced, which means it's military grade. I can drop it, I can do whatever I want, it's never going to break. That's where you start getting into the military grades. So it's really important that you pay attention to the finish and stuff of your device. And Doug, you talked about durability, so this is really important to you. You're going to want to look for a device that's got a polycarbonate edging, something that will allow you to do just what I did right there. And then something that's getting really popular today is called IP, which stands for ingress protection. That is your water rating. And it's in your sheet here. I've got it up here on the screen. What happens is you go into a retail environment and they start throwing a lot of numbers at you. Oh, this is IP67, this is IP68. And that's all about how deep can it go in water. Well, don't be fooled. There's no such thing as waterproof electronics. It's water resistant. And the higher the number, the 6 and the 7, the deeper and longer it can go. But don't get fooled. I've actually got a device here that is IP67, and it was really nice. It can go 3 meters for about 30 seconds. But if you take it down a slide and you're going too fast, what happens is you hit the water too fast, and it's not about the depth, it's about the pressure. Water gets sucked up in there, it's no longer water resistant, and you just burned a $1,000 phone. So this is an example. Additionally, and I'll pass this one around for you, this is one of those phones that looks really pretty on the screen. It's got glass, again, so that goes into the finish wrapped around it, but as you can tell, when you look at it, it's cracked all the way around the edge. And that's because, again, it wasn't a durable phone, it's got a really cool look, but it's got glass. So Doug, you're going to want to really pay close attention to that one. Yeah, so make sure that you look at that. So again, durability is key, and the question here is what's it made out of, and you're going to look for their military rating and their IP rating. All right, we're getting close to the end here. And this is actually the last one of the 6 key areas, which is miscellaneous. And there's a lot of different things that you could wrap up in here. But I wanted to really kind of give it to you guys in 3 keys you want us to look at. We've talked about the screen a lot already, as that's kind of what everybody's eye goes to. And when you look at the screen, you want to look at the technology. What's it made out of? Is it LED? Is it LCD? Why is that important? LED TVs, LED devices are more energy efficient. Therefore, you don't need as much of a battery. LCD is brighter. It's going to give you a liquid crystal display, so those are the ones that look really nice when you go into a store, but you go outside and you can't see it. If you spend a lot of time outdoors, you're going to make sure you know what technology your screen is so that it can amp itself up, brighten itself to outpower the sun. Additionally, I was talking about earlier about the materials on the screen and the sensitivity. You're going to want to ask that. How many pressure points does it have? You don't need to get lost in exactly how many there are, but you do need to understand that if you're going to be doing a lot of finite things, like doing a lot of internet browsing and drop-down boxes, selecting, or even some people like to draw on their phone with a lot of fancy apps. You're going to want a device that has a lot of pressure points. The more pressure points you have, the more accurate it is. And then there's size. And you talk about size, this is a brand new phone that just came out. This is the Samsung GS8, actually hit the market in about, I think, another week or so. This phone, really thin, but is really tall. Really tall, really hard to handle. So if you've got small hands, yeah, it may look really cool, it's got all these nice things, but the problem is a lot of times you can't get to some of the features because your hands aren't quite big enough. And again, nobody's allowed to see this one yet, but y'all can go ahead and pass it around if you want to. So again, it's really important that you understand the size and more importantly how you use those. Multitasking is a big one as well. Yeah, it's a nice one. Multitasking is a big one, and what multitasking allows you to do is use 2 different apps at the same time on your phone. So if you like to check email and watch a video, if you want to play a game and do text messaging, if you want to do those multi-things at the same time, you're going to want to make sure you have a screen that's big enough to do it. Now, that's all personal preference. You don't want to get too big like that phone right there, or you may not be able to manage it, but still need to be aware of it. And then the last one from the miscellaneous that is becoming more and more popular is security. And I will tell you that no matter what you do on your phone, even if you're just a soccer mom, Kathleen, or you're a farmer, Doug, at the end of the day, you still want to protect your information. And all of the phones today come with some sort of password. That phone right there that I just shared with you has biometrics for your thumb. It also has an iris scanner and a facial scanner. So no matter what, I don't want to type in a passcode, it'll let me do all those things. And you need to always do those things because everything in the world of data and the internet is always saved. So you want to make sure that you're protecting that as you go through. All right, so those are the 6 key areas that I want you guys to pay attention to. And you'll notice they all kind of work backwards here. So I'm going to work backwards. You got your miscellaneous things these are kind of the aha things, the cool factors that you want to pay attention to. Durability is something that you need to ask that question. How am I going to use this? Am I an outgroup? Am I a rugged person? Media. How much media am I going to use? What do I plan on doing with it? Because the more media I use, the more memory I need, the more battery I need, and I need to check with the ecosystem to make sure that my user interface and my operating system all work together. So those are the 6 key areas. So what I'll do now is I just kind of want to make sure that after we've kind of gone through these 6 really fast, and again, these are not to tell you what device to buy. They're to tell you exactly some questions or things to look at when it comes time to buy your next device. I know the original title was iPhone or no phone. And the reason I do that is because in my experience, what happens is people think there's only one phone out there and that's the iPhone. They don't ask simple questions in these 6 key areas to determine, A, maybe iPhone is the best. They don't ask the questions to make sure that there's not another device that's out there. So, Doug, when you talked about durability, it looks like you understand exactly, that's probably going to still be the most important to you? Yeah, I figured it would, that's good. Kathleen, you said that look and size, you want it to look cool, and that you want it to be easy to use. Would you say those are probably still the things you want to, or is there something else you'd look at?
No, good.
You're good? Okay. Mary, ease of use, same thing? Yeah, okay. And Cassidy, camera and apps. What about you?
I stick with them.
You're gonna stick with camera and apps? All right, cool. So again, those are the 6 key things. Those are the features and benefits. I'm glad it's all still most important to you. Hopefully now you at least have kind of an idea when you go look for that next device, what it is or what questions you can ask to make sure that you're arming yourself so that you purchase the right device going forward. So with that, I'll ask if you guys have any further questions. You're good? All right, well in the handout, sure, okay. In the handout there, you again has the 6 key areas that I talked about today. It's also got that memory slide that will tell you how many camera pictures or videos, music you can actually download based on your memory. It's also got the IP rating, but at the end of the day, all you need to know is the bigger the number, the more you can do. Thanks for your time. Looks like my screen's timed out, but that's all right because we're out of time. Thanks again, everybody. Y'all have a great rest of your day.